What's going on, guys? It's Sam and welcome to another review. 2020 has really been an insane year for gaming. Games like Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us 2, and we still have Cyberpunk 2077 coming out later this year. With so many great games, I honestly let Ghost of Tsushima completely go under my radar, which is surprising because Sucker Punch is one of my favorite game developers. The Infamous series was one of the big reasons that I picked up a PlayStation 3 back in the day, and growing up as a kid, the Sly Cooper series was some of my favorite games. Ghost of Tsushima is a big change in direction for Sucker Punch, going from a story based in modern-day metropolitan world with superpowers to being a samurai in 13th century Japan. With that being said, Sucker Punch really knocked it out of the park with Ghost of Tsushima. There was clearly so much passion and effort poured into this game, and the result is an excellent top-tier action open-world game. I do have a bit of a soft spot for games and stories based on being a samurai and in this era, but I know a great game when I see one, and Ghost of Tsushima is without a doubt a fantastic game. But with a console that already has a decent amount of samurai games and tons of open world experiences, is this one that I think you should invest your time and money in? With that, let's go ahead and hop into my review for Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima.
I am samurai, but I will sacrifice everything for my home.
The story takes place in 13th century Japan, on the island of Tsushima, where the Mongols are beginning their invasion of Japan. The game starts off on an epic note with this super cinematic shot of the Japanese samurai riding into battle to stop the oncoming Mongol army. The Japanese are used to fighting with honor, where samurais will fight each other face to face, where there's no deception. But the Mongols don't care about that at all, and they fight with whatever means necessary in an unhonorable way. So because of this, they pretty much slaughter all of the Japanese samurai except for two men. The first one being the Lord of Tsushima, Lord Shimura, and his nephew, Jin Sakai, who is the main character of the game. Jin wakes up after the battle is over to find all of his fellow samurai massacred, and his uncle has been kidnapped by the Mongols. So now Jin must recruit help from the natives of the island and kill all of the Mongols in order to rescue his uncle and save the island of Tsushima. But in order to overcome the Mongols and their war tactics, Jin must abandon the traditional honorable way of battle and learn new stealthy battle techniques, which is where he gets the name the Ghost of Tsushima. The story is very reminiscent of stories that most people have probably heard before, sharing a lot of similarities with something like Batman, where a young man, wealthy and powerful, must become a vigilante and a warrior in order to protect and save his people and his loved ones. Not only is there the main story, but there's also about 5 important side missions that progress the entire way throughout the campaign. And the side missions are really fantastic, with having great side characters that play critical roles along the journey and have really interesting missions of their own. So while the plot isn't very unique or groundbreaking, the delivery and performance by the characters really sell the story and make it compelling for the player. I felt motivated throughout my entire playthrough in order to help out the fellow villagers and see Jin's story to completion. So Jin is a fairly one-dimensional character. He's pretty noble, pretty dry, and very caring, but he battles a lot of confliction throughout the story. This adds an interesting twist to the story. He wants to make his uncle proud and honor him, but he also wants to save as many of his people as possible, even if it's at the cost of his honor. The side characters are arguably more interesting than Jin, with some serious standout performances from Lady Masako, Sensei Ishikawa, and Jin's uncle, Lord Shimura. One of the best aspects of the game is the dialogue between characters. With just recently finishing Final Fantasy VII and Persona 5, I've honestly gotten pretty used to games having kind of cringy and boring dialogue. But the conversations between characters in this game is really fantastic. It's not something that I thought I would have cared a lot about going into it, but every cutscene between characters or moments when characters were talking with each other, I found myself not picking up my phone, listening to the dialogue, paying attention to these moments. Not only are the conversations interesting, but there's a lot of witty and deep lines between characters. So while the story is a very important part of an open world game, an aspect that is just not, if not more important, is the world and the exploration. For me, exploring Tsushima was an absolute joy, and one of the first things that really stuck out to me about this game. While the game might not have the best facial graphics and facial animations, the world, The characters and environments are absolutely stunning, and in my opinion, some of the best in gaming. Ghost of Tsushima is an extremely stylish game. Similar to how Persona 5 is vibrant and full of fashion and art, Ghost of Tsushima has such a beauty and elegance to it. The colors of the flowers, the wind blowing in the air as your navigation, and the landscapes of the island make it just a joy to explore. I usually never use photo modes within games, but Ghost of Tsushima was really the first game where I found myself pausing to take in the visuals and using a photo mode in order to capture the moments and the beauty. So not only does it look great, but the areas to explore within the world are fun and interesting. My big issue with open world games over the past few years has been that while they look fantastic, the content within the world is boring and empty. And it was a big fear I had going into this game. But whether it's invading Mongol-controlled towns or areas, jumping through the climbing challenge shrines, finding fox dens or hot springs, there's just a lot of content within Ghost of Tsushima that pulls you off of the main story and gets you to explore. And this was a huge reason why I loved the game as much as I did. Exploring the world and going off the beaten path never felt like a waste of time. Whether I was fighting an intense battle that wasn't a part of the main story, doing those fun climbing challenges to find the shrines, or investing my time in some smaller side stories, anytime I went off the beaten path, I was rewarded for my exploration and found more and more that I enjoyed about the world. But now for the best part of the game, and to me that's the combat. The combat in all of the Infamous games was really something I enjoyed, but Sucker Punch really stepped it up with Ghost of Tsushima. Jin has a large arsenal of weapons, and you can go about combat either guns blazing through the front door or through stealth. And both ways to me were a blast, and I found myself switching between the two playstyles. Jin uses the classic samurai sword for close range and a bow for long range, but he also uses ghost weapons like a dagger for stealth kills and things like smoke bombs and kunai knives. Combat in this game just felt so crisp and satisfying. The game has a really great parrying system that I loved, and you can switch between 4 different stances depending on the enemy you're facing. Combat animations also add a lot to the experience, making kills feel extremely satisfying, and there's a fairly deep weapon upgrade system as well. There's also a really cool standoff mechanism within the game where you start off a fight fighting enemies one-on-one, and you call out telling them to send their greatest warrior. Just a standoff between 2 warriors waiting for the first one to budge. It's pretty much a reaction test, so as soon as the enemy makes the first move, you have to smash the button as quick as possible and you end up cutting them in half. And it again just added another element to the combat that was very satisfying. There's also these special one-on-one duels throughout the game that I found to be some of my favorite moments. Each fight starts off with a very cinematic and ritualistic start where each samurai is mentally preparing for the battle and showing honor to their opponent, and then the fight begins. The difficulty in this game is nowhere near a Sekiro or a Nioh, but there's a decent challenge throughout it. I probably died around 50 plus times, and each time I died, I knew that it was a mistake I made. I never really felt cheesed or cheated from a death, but overall the combat is just a huge highlight for this game, and it made the fighting heavy segments such a joy. So in conclusion, there's nothing really within Ghost of Tsushima that pioneers the action open world genre. But everything that the game does offer in its 40-hour experience is top quality and worth playing. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games on the PS4, and is a game that I think all PlayStation owners should give a try. With a compelling story, beautiful visuals, great exploration, interesting characters, dialogue, and amazing combat, the game gets an easy recommendation from me, and is a fantastic way to end off the PlayStation 4's amazing console run. It makes sense why the game is getting such high praise from critics and even some of the industry greats. Every part of the experience is great from beginning to end, and really brings to life being a samurai in the 13th century of Japan. So that's going to conclude it for my review, guys. I'm interested to hear, what are your thoughts on Ghost of Tsushima? Have you checked it out? Have you played it? Are your thoughts similar to mine? Did you love it, or did you think it was a bit overhyped and overrated? If you like content like this, gaming and manga related reviews, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more, and also a like would be greatly appreciated. With that, that's going to conclude the video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and thanks for stopping by. Peace.